I think we're live. What is happening, everybody? Everybody's having a fantastic, whatever day you're watching this. So, clock's ticking, guys. What is Sovereign's in already? Good job, brother. What exactly are y'all's thoughts? You know, I've been putting out some short videos. It's been a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun doing videos like that again, too. So, be on the lookout. I may start doing a little bit more of that. But that being said, in looking at all the comments I've been getting on some of those short videos about the new Mustang, what it looks like to me, could be wrong, but what it looks like to me is that a lot of you guys not only agree with me, but are even more passionate about me in one direction or another. And those directions are Mopar, how could you? And Mopar, I'm never going to see you again. It's weird. It's like you're living through a breakup with this, and you can just see the passion oozing out of people. And the sad thing about it is the people are passionate about the cars that they have and about the trucks that they have. And guys, I'm on record. I absolutely love Stormy. I couldn't imagine being happier with any other truck. Same goes for Little Miss Chandelier, aka Revlon. I absolutely dig that car a lot. I don't think that I would be happier with the Mustang, but it kind of goes without saying that, well, you don't want to see your brand go away. And I don't know. I'm kind of starting to think that it is. See, the problem is when you hinge a brand around the Challenger and the Charger, in other words, Dodge in this point, when you hinge a brand around those types of vehicles, it's easy to forget cars, trucks, whatever's like the Journey or the Durango. Wasn't there a dart floating around in there somewhere? I think you get what I'm talking about. It's easy to forget the rest of the field when you're only looking at the small picture, which is the Challenger and the Charger. Now, coming into the S650 release, or at least the announcement of the release, the issue that you're looking at right now is you're looking at a brand not upholding its end of the bargain. Talking about Dodge here. What I mean by that is this. You've seen all the marketing, the whole muscle car, you know, and it's you get a lot of that. But the reality is that it's just marketing. It's just corporate. The thing is that Dodge did such a great job of making a product that people wanted to buy because it was really good at being what people wanted. Big car, big engine, just a really cool car. Any of the Scat Pack variants will always have a very warm place in my heart. But with that being said, one of the issues that I run into, and I think a lot of you guys were sharing the same sentiment, is what about the rest of the field? What about any other product that's going to be internal combustion? What about direct connection? Everybody seems to have forgotten about that in this whole foray, but is direct connection still going to be a thing? What exactly are you going to offer through direct connection? The GLH Hornet? Huh? Like, what else is coming at SEMA that we're all supposed to be waiting for that is going to trump and be worth waiting for by comparison with the Dodge Charger Daytona Banshee EV driving around appliance? Wasn't everybody waiting on that thing to show up? And then once it did, it was such a major letdown, kind of like the other 2 days of those reveals. What are you holding back, Dodge? And the fact that they're holding anything back is, well, it's bad timing. It's poor marketing. You know, I've been hassling and harassing Mopar just from a marketing point of view for how many years now? How much worse can you do? How much worse can you be at your job in terms of marketing statements? The worst one was the only muscle car that comes from the factory with drag radials, forgetting completely about the 1320. I still have that screenshot, by the way. So I have to go back to what I know with Mopar, and that is, again, any of the V8 variants. I don't really look at the V6 in the same light. I can't, not as a performance enthusiast, but guys, it's been a great run, hadn't it? I mean, the V8 has done such a great job for Mopar that I don't know if they can create or generate their own new identity with a six-cylinder. And I'm saying with the six-cylinder, hopefully. In other words, let's just hope they've got something to deliver in a new platform with the Hurricane Inline Six. That 500 horsepower variant could do very well, provided that it's at least given a chance in the marketplace. Against the Mustang, though? See, the thing is it's going to be an also-ran. The same way that Dodge has been an also-ran for how many decades? You guys have to remember that it's really only in the last 10 years, give or take, that Dodge has really come into its own, only to show itself the door on its way out. It's not that long ago. Yeah, I understand that in 2008 we got the SRT8 Challenger, but I mean, guys, come on. Let's be honest here. It's really with the 15 and up variants that this really took off. And the Hellcat was a major part of that. It was the heart, the soul. It was the driving excitement behind the brand. The 392, don't get me wrong, way up there. But when it came to what captivated everyone, it was the Hellcat. And you know what? This many years later, it still is the yardstick that everybody else measures their car against. So isn't it weird that we're losing what is in essence the yardstick of performance in basically one fell swoop? Kind of strange. Also weird in all of this, and this is the real strange part of it for me. One of the weirdest aspects of this are all of these little commemorative releases along the way. What is it, 7? There's only one of them that really caught my attention, and that was the Super Bee, because it was basically a 1320 as a Charger. In my eye, one of the best looking cars Dodge has ever come out with. But the twist with all of that is that really there's no upgrade to the car. There's no development. There's no halo to these cars. Aside from the Super Bee, everything else is, well, just stickers, paint jobs, and a little bit of fluff thrown in here and there. No technology bump, no hybridization, no bump in power, basically nothing. And, well, that's why, and that sums up the amount of interest that I have in it. They didn't really put anything into them, so I'm not going to put anything into them in terms of an investment of interest. I don't even remember all of them. Let's see, you had the Shakedown. How did it go down again? Shakedown, Super Bee, King Daytona, or Daytona King, whatever it is. There was see what I mean? I'm supposed to be the one that knows this stuff, and I don't care enough to look any further into it. That should tell you guys something. Not for nothing, I'm real happy with the Hellcat that I have. It's an early release built in November 2014. Basically, it's the first. It's the first of the horsepower war cars. Not a bad place to be, honestly. My Ram, well, it's got a July birth date of 2022. 2023, rumored to be the last year of the V8. We'll see if that even holds water. What's coming in 24, who knows? But the reality is I really like that truck. In fact, I was doing some tune well, it was more really short-term knock testing with fuel quality. I was knocking some of that out today. And wrapping up the tune on the truck. Basically, it's a done deal. And God, it's been a lot of fun. I've been having a lot of fun. I'm going to be doing some Riding with Brian segments where I'm taking you guys along when I'm doing the data logging and just kind of chatting about what I'm doing. You'll see some of that. But that's fun for me. And I enjoy it. And it's a shame that Dodge is going the direction that they are if they're not releasing a new platform to go along with the Hurricane Inline Six. I know RT Life, it's been a couple of years ago, at least it feels like it, was talking about an Inline Six for the LX platform, and I was going, there's no way. Well, now I'm hoping that he was right, because the fact is, without that Inline Six, you've got no internal combustion engine, you've got no heart, no soul for the brand at all. And you might say, you got to have a V8. The V8 is going to have to be part of that equation. Well, let's not forget that Dodge, back in the 80s, went with the forced induction route in lieu of a V8. And it did really well, and it had a lot of fans. A lot of people were in love with the Dodge 600. That was a big one. Especially, it's funny that you can't even find a hardtop 600, but you can still find the convertibles out there. But the Dodge 600, the Daytona, the Omni, which would be the GLH, which morphed into the Sprint, which was the 16-valve variant, and the list goes on, right? Those cars did really well, and the issue isn't so much that they weren't V8s. It was that they were not V8s that were practically as fast as the V8s of their time. Add into that the Conquest, which still one of my all-time favorite cars, big four-cylinder turbo that was going toe-to-toe with the likes of the Porsche 944 turbo at the time. Not quite as fast, but obviously at a fraction of the cost. See, these were really cool times to be a Mopar fan. You had variety, and nobody was necessarily wrong. And in fact, it was interesting because you would see a Daytona at the drag strip or on the street, or you would see a Conquest or a Starion on the street going up against a Mustang or a Camaro, and you didn't know who was going to win. Is it going to be boosted small motor or naturally aspirated big motor? Well, you got to wait around to find out, but it was cool. And maybe we can get back to some of that. And in that other video, I'm talking about, hey, where are my Cold War kids at? These are all the kids that were guys, gals that were kids, like young, like I was back then, seeing how all of this stuff was developing. So as we move into whatever the next phase of Dodge is going to be, I'm optimistic that they're going to do the right thing, or that they have planned on doing the right thing. Hoping? Anyway, planning on hoping that they did the right thing. How much more can I couch that statement? Because if they didn't, to me, party's over. The brand is done. I mean, we can talk about what to do with your V8s. It's not like they're going to quit making gas and you're still going to be able to get aftermarket support for them, but it's going to be just like Kaniskis said, 1972 all over again. Which brings me to my next point. Boy, his crystal ball must have had cataracts that day, because Ford saw a different and much more clear picture of where their path was going to take them. Ford decided they were going to keep investing in that V8 architecture and came up with a nasty little just Tempest of an engine, that new 5-liter twin throttle body, rumored to be 500 horsepower, the Dark Horse, which takes it a step further with all forged internals, and then the SCCA GT3 and GT4 race offerings that are looking to be 5.4 liter. In fact, that's the rumor anyway, 5.4 liter version of that Coyote. Yeah, you can also buy yourself a Dark Horse track only edition. What? Ford is backing up what they promised. That Ford is 100% rolling with the enthusiast. And it's something that nobody else can really talk about. In fact, with GM, if you want to, I mean, Dodge is one thing, but GM, it looks even worse because when the Camaro goes away, the only thing that they have to look forward to, and this has been like, man, this is something that they have already said, is like a four-door electric car. God. Really? All I got to ask is this. When the winds of change direction, what's the other manufacturer's position going to be at that point? I mean, you can't really sell EVs from a we're saving the planet point of view once it gets out that you don't have to do that anymore. Or once the science is reflected in what it takes to, I don't know, recycle these batteries. See, the problem is those batteries, it's not like an internal combustion engine. Here's the funny thing about internal combustion car recycling. It's really, really, really easy. You take the car when it's way past its serviceable life, you put it in a crusher, and then you take the crushed pancake and you put it in a grinder. It grinds it up and it spits it out the other side, and then you can take all the magnetic-y bits, put them in one pile, the non-magnetic-y bits, put them in another pile, take your plastic bits, put them in a pile, and you can recycle basically 100% of that car. And it doesn't take a hazmat suit or special chemicals and dilutions to make it happen. You just grind up the thing. See, the problem with trying to do that with an EV is that you have batteries that are included with that, well, when it comes time to do something with them, well, the thing is they got a lot of really twitchy compounds and minerals in them. Lithium, which, let's just say, vigorously, thermodynamically decomposes in the presence of water or even waterborne or airborne water, humidity. That's a real fancy way of saying it freaking explodes when it gets in contact with water. See, the problem is that lithium strips away the oxygen molecule, releasing hydrogen, which then, well, once you reach a stoichiometric, once it reaches a somewhat stoichiometric value, because of the heat, it will explode because hydrogen is the most flammable freaking element on the chart, along with some other pretty caustic chemicals that are in there as stabilizers and other gooey bits. That stuff catches on fire pretty easily if it's not handled properly and makes just a complete mess of the area that it's around. In other words, it's bad for the environment. And this happens to happen fairly regularly. Google lithium polymer battery decomposition or explosion is a better way to do it. And that'll give you a little bit better idea of how twitchy these batteries can get. So when you take that at face value, the liability of that starts to seem a little bit scary. But hey, we're 10 years away from that liability, right? So who cares? I guess I'm getting off track here, but the point is that it's a little bit hard to have a soul in something that you can't return back to Mother Earth without a hazmat suit or decomposing chemicals. So anyway, I guess where I'm going with all of this is, in the video where I was asking, is the brand of Dodge dead? I've got to basically ask it another way. Is the brand of Dodge dying in your eyes? Would you be cool with an inline six twin turbo competitor to the Mustang a la 1987? Daytona Coupe versus Mustang GT. What would your thoughts be on that? What about if they brought back the Starion nameplate, the Conquest nameplate? Holy mackerel, how cool would that be? I mean, I don't think they can put Daytona on anything else, could they? Would you be a buyer of that type of a car? Would you even be into it? Inline sixes have been powerhouses for forever. And I'm on record as saying that I'm a big old fan of inline sixes. Even like how they sound. But the reality is that you're going to have a lot of folks that aren't. And not only are you going to have a lot of folks that aren't really into them, you're going to have a lot of folks that, well, are going to be V8 purists, former Ford guys, that are going to start to remember their youth. And for a lot of these guys that are Mopar guys today and Mopar gals today, they started off life as Ford people, not as Mopar people, certainly not GM. And when they start going back to their roots, where does that leave Dodge? Hopefully they got it figured out. SEMA is right around the corner. Let's see what they have to reveal. Because if it's not something along the lines of what a lot of you guys have shared with me as being what you would prefer to see in your Dodge dealership showroom, if any of the comments hold water, I would have to say that there's a fair share of you guys that won't be going back to Mopar, not for an EV. And I get it, you know, and some of y'all have even said, you know, Dodge comes in and out of the party, you know, they're in for a little bit, then they're out. Then they're in for a little bit, then they're out. And although that may be somewhat true, I'm afraid that by the time they're back in, will it even be worth it? I mean, is everything going to be EV by the time they're back in? And here's the thing. I completely understand the whole EV argument. It's easy when you're only looking at performance numbers. But again, I can't remember where I saw it, but I think y'all may have heard me say it before. Would you rather have your hamburger grilled or microwaved? Because that's the difference between internal combustion engines and EVs. Like, yeah, one of them might be a little bit faster, might be a whole lot faster, but it just doesn't have the flavor. It just doesn't have the soul. And I think I would rather have mine grilled, thank you. So, will they come back around? We'll see. Again, we're talking about SEMA as our last vision of hope. At this stage of the game, if SEMA comes back and it's some race-only variant, some whatever kind of variant that they're going to be showing us, I'm not saying I'm hanging up the keys to Mopars, because I'm not. Absolutely dig my truck. Absolutely really do like the Hellcat variants a lot. But it's going to be tough to talk about something when it don't even exist anymore as a new vehicle. And when you don't have anything to look forward to, aside from, have you seen the new EV? Isn't it so fast? It reminds me of something else too that I wanted to bring up. You know, the whole, let me make sure, Dodge Charger, Daytona, Banshee, electric vehicle concept car. That's a mouthful. You know, they didn't give us any specs. They didn't give us anything, any idea as far as when this thing is going to be coming out, realistically. But when they didn't show any other internal combustion engine combinations, I guess we should have known better then. But to hold us off until SEMA, in light of the S650, it had better be awesome. And it had better be something that we can all look forward to having. See, the other side of this argument is an all-EV lineup means that you're eliminating, well, folks that don't have houses, folks that can't just charge their car up overnight. Also, you're taking out of account, or you're not taking into account, however you want to take that one, the fact that a lot of these EVs just flat out are not getting the ranges that are advertised. In some cases, not even close. Talking to a guy the other night that had owned a Lightning for a very short period of time and then got rid of it because it did not at all deliver on the promise of the range that it was advertised out. This was an extended range Lightning. It was getting about half of whatever that extended range was. I think it was getting a grand total of like maybe 200 miles out of the thing. You say, well, it depends on how you drive it. Yeah, listen, if they're advertising it to where you can run your house for 2 or 3 days, yeah, I would have to say that it had better perform as advertised regardless of how you drive it. I mean, within reason anyway. I mean, how are they rating that thing? Downhill all the time? Anyway, let me get to you guys. I'm going to kind of pick through here real quick. Sovereign's in. Sovereign rather have the 8. Yeah, I can understand that. Michael Grove saying, hey, 345 is in. Saying, sup, B? Got the arm flex. Chuck's in saying, E to B. What's up, Chuck? Sovereign saying it's not just about the vehicle, it's about the experience. A good point. And that's really it. And that's one of the things you got to hand to Dodge, right? I mean, they really did sell an experience over specific product performance numbers, even though it did perform really well. Arfos is in. Saying aloha. What's up, man? Ardell's in. Arfos got that flex too. Chuck saying, I'm not nearly enthusiastic about a Mustang as I am Mopar Muscle, but if it's all we can get as V8 fans, then that or a used Mopar, which I said before, it is true. Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, you'll always have the used variants floating around out there. So, you can always get your hands on one. And again, I mean, they're going to keep making parts for these things. So it's not like that part of it's going away. But I think for the most part, for guys that are wanting to have the latest, that want to still be a part of a particular mechanics lifestyle, Mopar was really good for guys that were big into that. You had bragging rights, biggest engine, most torque, the whole bit. And with that going away, maybe the turbo variant, hang on, let me plug this thing in because it's just about to die. The turbo variant, turbo inline 6 could be something cool, could be something interesting to talk about, something completely different. And I'm really cool with something completely different. I've always viewed Mopar in general as more of a engineer. Like you would always have something really well engineered, but sometimes poorly executed. Eyes were bigger than their stomach in some cases. So in this case, that is what I'm hoping for. And the reason why I'm saying that the clock is ticking on Mopar for SEMA. When we get down to the 0 hour of SEMA and Dodge releases something, that is going to be what we will be talking about either for the next 5 to 6 years or for the next 5 to 6 weeks. Because if Dodge doesn't release something that is an economically viable new or new-ish revised platform with, if there's not going to be a V8, that inline 6, the Hurricane inline 6, if they're not going to offer something like that up, well, then Dodge becomes irrelevant in the pony car and muscle car conversation. And I mean irrelevant as in irrelevant moving forward. You can talk about EVs all day long, and that's great, but too many enthusiasts are viewing the EV as an appliance. They're finding it only being a one-trick pony. Now, I don't necessarily have that same viewpoint, but I understand the viewpoint, and it's valid. And for a lot of guys, the EV does not at all make sense financially from a convenience point of view, it's just not there. It comes with a stigma, let's be honest. So putting a fake sound generator on it doesn't make it cool necessarily. Now, I posted up before, what I thought would be really neat is if they just mic'd up the engine, amped it, ran it through auto tune in a buzz box. That would be something that you could adjust and change, but it would be the actual motor, and it would in essence be an exhaust for the motor. You're just amplifying the noise that the motor makes. Or are we talking about an exhaust system, or are we talking about miking up an electric motor? See what I mean? It's the same thing. There are ways you can do this. There are cool ways that you can go about it. But Dodge is just, they're failing. They're flailing as well as failing. And it's just hard to watch. It's hard to watch the company that made that car right back over here falling upstairs. It's like they've let themselves go, and you're watching them slowly go away. Again, it feels like a breakup somehow. It really feels bizarre when you start to think of it. So, the main thing that I got to say too is if Dodge gets it wrong in this respect, not only does it open up the floodgates for Mopar, ex-Mopar, and new Mopar moving forward, getting into the Mustang, but without players to prop up the internal combustion engine in general, it's leaving it all to Ford to be the only one that's going to be innovating that market segment. Not bad hands to be in, guys, because they're extracting basically 100 horsepower per liter out of that new engine. Anybody else doing that? Has anybody else even come close to that level of specific output? Not naturally aspirated, not in the States anyway. And that's something else that you got to take into consideration. The Mustang really is that good from an engineering point of view. Say what you will. And here's the other thing. It's going to be spooky fast. You might say, well, it's only got another 15 horsepower over the Bullet and the Mach 1. Yeah, but 10-speed automatic, 355 gears, that's a fast car. And it's usable power. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of torque, and it stretches its power out over a freaking country mile, but you can put every ounce of that power to the ground on a set of drag radials. That's not too shabby. So let me check in with you guys real quick. Going to be kind of a short night because I got to get up early in the morning, guys. So with that, I am going to wrap it up. Check out the other videos if you get a chance. Post up your comments. Let me know what you think. Basically, this video kind of ties a lot of that together, but I'm going to be talking about individual race variants like the GT3, GT4 variants as those details come out. Obviously, didn't even touch on the GT500 at this point because, I mean, my God, I mean, it kind of writes its own story. But I cannot wait to get more details on that as well. Could you only imagine that car with an actual slush box automatic? Good grief, it'd be a 9-second car from the factory that could actually go around corners. Oh my God, I'm starting to sound like a Ford guy. I better wrap it up. Guys, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it way, way worse than you know. Love each and every one of you guys. Would not do this without you. And with that, that's a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Catch you on the next one. Adios.